So, AOC has been garnering some apology because everyone assumed she did not vote no on the bailout bill. But except for she didn't. She didn't vote no. Won't talk about that. What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of MCSC. And of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. So we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. But before I begin, I want to say, like this video, share this video. Message of this video is extremely important. The information in this video is extremely important. I really hope that you are willing to look at this through an objective lens rather than a leftist lens or even a conservative lens. Look at this through an objective lens. This is somebody in your personal life who did this. This was somebody you didn't know. This is someone who didn't have this type of clout, didn't have this type of public influence, who didn't have this type of platform. How would you have reacted, or how would you react? That is what I would ask you to keep in mind as we are covering this controversial topic. So, as I have been researching and digging for this throughout this bailout situation, which I've been doing for a couple of weeks, it's a headache, put it like that. But there's some other stuff happening behind the scenes that I wanted to get confirmation on. And so I've been trying to look where people vote, why they voted like that, why didn't they build coalitions sooner, when it got introduced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the two names that stood out to me the most, obviously, were AOC and Thomas Massie, Representative Thomas Massie. The reason why is because we know AOC had her grandstanding moment on the floor, and then Thomas Massie wasn't a grandstanding moment. It actually was him trying to put everyone's vote on the record. He was the only one to say nay, which you'll hear, and he was the only one willing to confront the media immediately about it. And so I was trying to understand why people were doing some of the things they do, right? Like, why didn't AOC immediately speak to the media? Why did it take her 4 or 5 days later to come out and talk to the media? Things like that. So I came across a video from Krystal and Saager yesterday talking about this very topic. I was like, cool. All right, let's hear it. They opened up and apologized to her. Because apparently she voted no, right? All right, let's check it out.
So we wanted to actually correct the record here a little bit, because we had been working off some bad information that AOC, even though she had castigated the corporate bailout of the CARES Act, had in the end voted for it. Now, of course, it's very hard to tell because they didn't actually have a roll call vote where you have to record your vote on this, which is just outrageous and unconscionable. But actually, it turns out AOC did vote against that corporate bailout bill. Let's take a listen to her explanation.
Yeah, well, you know, I think ultimately this debate, it was up to each and every member. I don't slight any member for how they voted. I could not bring myself to ultimately support this bill because I believe that people will soon see the extraordinary asymmetrical assistance that went to corporations. We're not just talking about $500 billion that went to Wall Street, as I mentioned in my remarks. That is being leveraged to $4 trillion for Wall Street and corporations.
So I give her all the credit there. Yeah.
Owe her that correction.
And as far as we know, she's the only Democrat who voted against this bill.
Come out and said
as
so.
far as we know, they're actually trying to track, I think it's the Intercept that's doing a project to try to track and figure out, or maybe it's David Dayen, one of our favorite journalists, is doing this project to try to figure out exactly how everybody voted on this bill. It is the Intercept. And as far as we know, so far, she is the only Democrat who has come out and said, I voted against it, which, since there wasn't an actual recorded vote, what ultimately matters is who actually takes accountability for the vote. So,
all right. So I don't want to get too hung up on that, but we need to talk about the next clip. You heard AOC. I didn't bring myself to support this and blah blah blah. And what did she do? She took the situation, kind of distracted and misdirected everybody by making it somehow about Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump's administration, claiming that they are the ones who introduced this legislation or introduced the bailout, which is demonstrably false, actually. It was the first person who introduced the financial bailout portion was a Democrat from New Jersey in the Senate. Okay, so there was that. But we're going to talk about that too. So let's check out whether or not AOC actually did vote no.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 911, the previous question is ordered on the motion. The question is on adoption of the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
For what purposes, gentlemen, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I came here to make sure our republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, and I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise and remain standing until counted. An insufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is refused.
Mr. Speaker.
Is the gentleman recognized?
I object on the basis that a quorum is not present and make a point of order that a quorum is not present.
The chair will count for a quorum. Counted for a quorum is present. The motion is adopted. Without objection, a motion.
I might be mistaken, people. Might be mistaken. But unless AOC got some type of transition where she got an Adam's apple and her voice all of a sudden got deeper and sounded exactly like the only person who voted against it, which was Tom. She did not vote no against that. She grandstanded. Okay, cool. She said something about the choices we have to make here today, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But she did not vote no against this bill. In fact, she didn't even support Thomas Massey's request to challenge the vote on this bill because of decorum, which is you need a certain amount of people available in the room to do certain votes for certain situations. And basically, it was the Robert's Rules of Order in this regard were completely ignored. Thomas Massey was he was against the legislature from the beginning, but he was at least trying to get accountability. And as you saw in that video, they gave him no opportunity. Why is that? And why wouldn't, if you were so fervently against this, why wouldn't you speak about it? I'm gonna be honest with you, people. You have to call this what it is. No, for some people it might suck, it might hurt, you might feel betrayed, you might feel hopeless, no, that's not the case at all. Okay? AOC lied. Now there will be some people who make the attempt to argue semantics. They'll say, well, she didn't say she didn't vote for it. She said I couldn't bring myself to I couldn't ultimately bring myself to support it. If you notice, both times she began to lie in that video, she stuttered, looked down, and looked to the left. And she didn't do it for any other part of the conversation in the video if you go back and watch it. She didn't do it for any other part of the conversation. She just, whenever she tried to blame it on the Trump administration and Mitch McConnell for saying they introduced it. Did you know that the bill in its original form was introduced by the Democrats? It was introduced by the House. Different discussion for a different video. But it was introduced by the House at 369 original co-sponsors. However, it was called something completely different by the time it went up to the Senate. And it was sent up to the Senate for completely different reasons. And it was sent up to the Senate in 2019. Now, Mitch McConnell, because of the coronavirus, obviously like did what he does, which is lead the Senate. But the amendments that began to be introduced were introduced by Democrats. There were stories about it all over that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were trying to put the Democrats together to vote for the bill, to create the bailout. So I don't know what she's talking about. It was a lie. She's deflecting. That is literal gaslighting. Pretending as if we didn't see it happen. Pretend like we don't have like Google or DuckDuckGo even. But then you lie. You don't just lie. Ladies and gentlemen, she didn't take an interview for 5 days. This is AOC. If she voted no, she would have put out a goddamn email. She would have put out a tweet, anything. Dude, we voted no, and she would have tried to fundraise off of it. I voted no, and these are the reasons why. But notice, in her grandstanding speech, she never made the attempt to say, I'm not voting for this. She never tried to say that. She said, it's sad that these are the choices we have. Yeah, we already know that. Okay, next. Then, of course, she does that interview, like, once again, not 4 or 5 days later. My apologies. 2 weeks later, almost. 2 weeks later. Guess what she just told the world? I couldn't bring myself to support it. Which most people, like Saager and Krystal, are taking as, which, by the way, they're just trying to do good journalism and correct the record, which I respect, honestly. Because she said that in that video, by the way, that I showed you, I owe finding that to a supporter of the network because it was hard to find, honestly. It got buried. But they were trying to do good journalism, and AOC often, for whatever reason, gets the benefit of the doubt, and she hasn't earned it yet. She has not done anything worth earning the benefit of the doubt. You get what I'm saying? There are people who have been here, who have had their ups and downs as politicians, as leftists. They've been through it. They saw how we started and know how we got here. That's not AOC. She just got here. And she's given the benefit of the doubt in situations like this. And this is how insulting the situation is. There's video footage. Video footage of AOC literally lying. She did a video like there isn't video footage of her not saying anything, unless, once again, she sounds like a man. But maybe she masked her voice. I don't know. Want to hear it again? I'll play it one more time.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 911, the previous question is ordered on the motion. The question is on adoption of the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
For what purposes, gentlemen, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I came here to make sure our republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, and I request a recorded vote.
All right. You heard it again. Can we finally please acknowledge the pattern of behavior without trying to use Bernie's name to prop her up and defend? Can we please try and acknowledge her pattern of behavior without you trying to somehow capitulate to, oh, well, y'all are just mad because Tulsi. Nothing specific. It's something new every week. But they ignore AOC's shortcomings and blame Tulsi for them. You want, oh, what patterns? Don't worry, I got you. Don't even worry about it. So, she complained about voter suppression. She only generally complains about it from the left, as in only attacking Republicans, as most Democrats do. Obviously, if you watch this show, then you know that's not the case. Both the Democrats and Republicans are pretty damn in elections. Why didn't you support the Securing America's Elections Act that was pushed forth by Tulsi? Is it because of who introduced it? Out of curiosity? because that would mean that you're playing politics. You're not actually fighting for change for the people. You're trying to stamp out the people who stand in your way or who could potentially hurt your career by being associated with you. Okay. When you created the Green New Deal, that 12-point bullet piece of nonsense, when you created that, why didn't you give credit to the Green Party when you did? Some people would say, oh, well, she's a Democrat. Oh, so their policy and their branding and their marketing of that legislation was good enough for you to take. Shout out Jill Stein, partially Howie Hawkins. I know Howie Hawkins created it, but I feel like Jill Stein popularized it when it happened. So their branding and their marketing is good, but you can't just pay them some respect. Okay, cool. Question. When Ilhan Omar is being viciously attacked, not just Republicans, but Democrats. You know, came to her defense. Tulsi came to her defense. A video. Ilhan has actually co-sponsored a lot of legislation since that interaction, which is awesome to see. AOC was silent, nowhere to be found. Nowhere. When Elizabeth Warren tried to drag Bernie Sanders' entire career through the mud by asserting that he claimed that a woman could not beat Donald Trump, you know where AOC was? Silent. Ilhan Omar defended him. Tulsi obviously defended him. Rashida Tlaib defended him. AOC was liking tweets defending Warren, telling us to move on. You know that AOC ran on the All Fossil Fuels Act, which is, we say this all the time, the most aggressive climate change legislation in the history of the country? No, the world. Supported by over 400 climate and environmental organizations. Is the best that we had seen thus far and that we have seen thus far. No one has offered anything close. Okay? I'm talking about as a bill. This isn't a plan. This is that somebody introduced during their presidential run to win over votes because, you know, climate change can't wait, right? What everybody says. No, ladies and gentlemen, that was a bill that AOC ran on pushing. Did y'all know that? Why, ladies and gentlemen, did she decide to introduce a nonsensical resolution and push every piece of legislation? I'm talking about pro-fracking legislation that was hidden as Green New Deal, pro-climate change. Nah. It was like something that was introduced by Kirsten Gillibrand. That's what she pushed instead. I'm curious, if Tulsi already had the apparatus to work on climate change legislation, and you said you were going to work with her, she did. She said she was going to work with her. Did y'all know that? Yeah. Tweets out there. Can't wait to work with you. Yeah, she used to love Tulsi. So she got her talk from Nancy Pelosi, and, you know, her ambition kicked in. Why did it take her 10 months? 10 months to endorse Bernie. 10. Now, you can't pretend like, oh, people, you know, they're going to go to the PR stick, right? Well, I hate talking points, but it's a talking point. She endorsed him in his weakest moment. No, see, listen, that's how I know y'all not. Some of y'all, listen, PR is a fickle beast. And it calls for you to take advantage of every opportunity. At a moment where most of us who had been paying attention to what Roseanne Morrow was a nurse, and Jane and Nina, if we paid attention, they're like, yeah, he's fine. He just had a stent put in. It literally was non-invasive or minimally invasive surgery. Bop, bop. He was recovered in 2 days. There was nothing extreme about it. In fact, he probably should have had it a long time ago. But there was nothing that hospitalized him for days. There was no, I mean, obviously there's always a chance of something. But there was, on the horizon, it didn't look like anything. It's obvious. But she takes advantage of the media narrative, right? The mainstream media narrative, which is that, oh my God, Bernie is done. She comes down and says, I'm going to endorse him. Person I believe. Okay. So once again, this didn't happen in a vacuum, because yeah, you may have endorsed Bernie, but before that, the 10 months prior, weren't you propping up Elizabeth Warren, who everybody knew was his biggest competition? You refused to hold her to account. She would get caught lying, stealing Bernie's policies, lying, stealing Bernie's branding, lying, and flip-flopping and lying and flip-flopping and lying, to the point where she lied on the candidate that you were literally stumping for, to the point where she lied on the candidate, which don't think we didn't notice the coincidence that around the time that she had lied on Bernie Sanders, you had basically all but stopped campaigning for him. Which I'm sure the two are correlated. Why would you defer to the caucus on Venezuela? I'm just curious. What do you mean defer to the caucus? No, we cannot invade Venezuela. The United States should not be committing any type of regime change war. I don't. What's so hard about that? It's against, you're calling out the administration that you supposedly dislike so much. Okay. Why would you make an attempt to sign with CAA, a talent agency that is very well known for being mainstream establishment? Hell, they've been accused of pimping women. We know that this talent agency is largely associated with Harvey Weinstein, or at least we know what they do. We know who signs to them. You know who's also signed to CAA? Joe Biden. You know who's also signed to CAA? Kamala Harris, Alyssa Milano, Anderson Cooper, Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, should I keep going? Okay, you get the point. CAA is the same talent agency that said, and you know, they got caught in the WikiLeaks leaks that said, where it said that they were going to crush Tulsi Gabbard, bring the hammer down, excuse me, to be exact, on Tulsi Gabbard because she decided to support Bernie Sanders. Interesting. They didn't say that about AOC, huh? They know that she's not a legitimate threat. They offer her a book deal. Listen, you don't have to call AOC the enemy. You don't even have to call her adversary, right? You don't have to hate her. You don't have to drag her through the mud. You don't have to cuss her out. You don't have to do none of that, right? She may be an ally, but y'all damn sure better stop pretending that this woman is any type of leader. Y'all damn sure better stop screaming AOC 2020. Stop saying her name in the same breath of leadership as Tulsi Gabbard, Nina Turner, Joy Gray. Not even close. You know why? Because if Nina Turner's getting dragged through the mud, Tulsi Gabbard comes to her defense. If Tulsi Gabbard's getting dragged through the mud, Nina Turner comes to her defense. If Tulsi's getting dragged through the mud, Bree comes to her defense. If Bernie's getting dragged through the mud, all three of them go to his defense. And look, AOC tried to smear Andrew Yang in the beginning of the election, and then tried to kiss his ass about UBI after, of course, he was no longer a threat. Tried to smear him. Not, I mean, there's obviously his foreign policy trash, stance on the side, just legitimate critiques. But she tried to smear him because he was potentially going to take votes away from Bernie, which is taking votes. Why is it that when you go on the road, this is the most bizarre ever. Why is it that when you go on the road and you stump for Bernie, you were giving higher speeches without saying Bernie's name one single time? Like you forgot that you were running yourself. Why is it that Tulsi Gabbard, who's running for president, has to come to the defense of Bernie Sanders more than his own damn surrogate? Why is that people like Tucker Carlson have to come to the defense of Bernie Sanders against the establishment, has to come to the defense of other progressives like Tulsi Gabbard against the establishment? Why do they have to come, like a damn conservative on Fox News has to come to the defense of these people? Steve Bannon will come to the defense of Bernie Sanders before AOC does. Yeah, she might defend him against Republicans, but Bernie's biggest threat has never been Republicans, has it, huh? Like Tulsi, Nina, like all of us, the biggest threat seems to be Democrats. We are either going to listen. Could you imagine? Could you truly imagine if Tulsi Gabbard had said, first of all, if she grandstanded like that just to vote yes, oh, bruh, we would have to. I would not be happy. She wouldn't do something like that. One, she's not a grandstander. Two, she's not an opportunist. But if she did, pretending like, then went on to vote yes, then waited 2 weeks later to come out, once again, you could tell she hasn't been in. I don't think she knows how. There's videos, whole videos. Comes out 2 weeks, says, I ultimately couldn't bring myself to support it. Then tries to blame the Trump administration for it. When Trump, here how you feel about him. This is reality. Trump talked about you. Trump talked about UBI almost within a few hours or a day, maybe even less than that. When Tulsi brought up the idea of emergency UBI, Trump immediately backed it, and that's why Mitt Romney felt good to introduce something like that in the Senate after Tulsi introduced it like that. Now, why didn't you co-sign Tulsi's UBI bill, emergency UBI for the coronavirus, huh? Because you had a different option besides the one you took. You didn't co-sponsor it, bro. What happened? You know who did? Elon. Shout out to you. Much respect. She did say she wanted to do other options, and you know she co-sponsored that. And then Rashida Tlaib introduced something that was pretty damn good. I'm gonna cover it later. But AOC didn't do anything. She talked and talked and talked, and then blamed the Trump administration. People get screwed. But if Tulsi literally lied, there would be no defense. When Tulsi's telling the truth and people don't like it, they don't even believe her then, and they drag her based off of nothing. No patterns of behavior, no history. Her defense of Assange means nothing. Her defense of Bernie against the intelligence community, trying to rig the election against him and try to make him, try to use those neo-McCarthy smears against him, that didn't mean anything. What he did in 2016, it didn't mean anything. Introducing the Fairness and Media Act didn't mean anything. Introducing the Secure American Elections Act to transition to paper ballots and voter verified paper backups and blockchain technology and open source software for accountability in case somebody does try to rig it, didn't mean anything. All Fossil Fuels Act, because climate change can't wait, right? Climate change can't wait. AOC decided to introduce something else, even though basically matter of fact, the OFF Act clearly did more. It addressed parts of the legislation like nuclear energy, like fracking, that the Green New Deal didn't do. Climate change can't wait, right? Oh, just kidding. It can wait if I didn't introduce legislation. So if Tulsi could get dragged because her history is completely ignored, I guess then at that point I should not be surprised at all when AOC gets praised for the same reason, right? Because people are ignoring patterns of behavior. They're latching on to the information that confirms their biases rather than looking at the picture in its entirety. You're listening to sound bite commentators, sound bite analyses, not policy. There's no fucking way. There's no possible way, ladies and gentlemen, that you are saying your decision to support this person or that person, AOC, for example, is based off of policy. How? What policy is that? What policy? Oh, well, she advocates for the things I advocate for. Yeah, but if you don't have the conviction to fight the hardest battles, then when situations like this come, we know what you're going to do. But it's worse with AOC because she just convinced the world. She convinced, once again, I like Saager and Krystal. Hell, me and Saager are friends. Saager was trying to do his damn job. He gave her the benefit of the doubt. You convince people that you voted against it. And once again, people are going to say, well, no, she didn't say it. No. And she come out and corrected the record. Matter of fact, why did you go on Democracy instead of The Hill Rising? Like The Hill Rising, as you know, is based off of a mainstream media organization that literally covers the Hill, Capitol Hill. Congress people go on it all the time. They discuss legislation passed there or introduced there all the time. They have congressional advisors, strategists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The whole point of the Hill. But you go on Democracy now. Why? Because the reality situation is, as much as I like Amy Goodman, even though I don't like her Russiagating and Assange hating, she will not challenge in any substantive way AOC. Like, if Saager's there, he's going to be like, well, why didn't you call out AOC? Why didn't you call out Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer? Why did you pretend it was this administration who was pushing this? I'm not saying, I'm not saying that Trump did not want the bailout at all. I'm not saying that. But truthfully speaking, I don't know how much he wanted the bailout more than the other provisions. Because for the first time, he seemed genuinely more concerned about everything else. Like, he was more concerned, right or wrong with his rhetoric, he was more concerned about the virus, right? And getting people back to work rather than giving people corporate bailouts. If you recall, Trump was the one who came out and said, okay, cool, we give you money. We're going to nationalize. And the Republicans freaked out. But remember, he suggested this. That was Trump who said that. Mitt Romney was the one who introduced the provision to send out paychecks in the Senate to begin with, not Chuck Schumer. People like, what? You gonna ignore the reality? You gonna ignore a fact? Come on. Saager would have asked her though, but can't attack Mama Bear. Can't attack Mama Bear. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to know what you think. Please like this video, share this video. Please remember to subscribe. Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockman Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.